welcome to Biz Africa. Here's what we have for you tonight. The Zambian government says plans are currently underway to standardize mining policies across Africa. This in order to enable countries to fully benefit from their mineral resources. According to one official, African countries are expected to form an alliance that will regulate the mining system to help stop some of the companies from exploiting mineral-rich nations. The move will in essence enable citizens to benefit from mineral wealth while ensuring mining companies abide by a set of standards. This hopes to create a win-win situation for both parties. Signaling local content as a standard in Zambia, the official noted that investors should use locally manufactured equipment and engage locals as suppliers of goods and services. Zambia's recent decision to revise its mining policy is expected to reorient the sector to create a competitive, thriving, and sustainable industry that will benefit both investors and Zambians at large. It's been 3 years since Tunisia took to the streets en masse to force the country's then president, Zine El Abidine Ben Ali, to flee. Much of the frustration centered on economics, but Tunisia's economic outlook has only gotten worse since then. According to the World Bank, Tunisia's GDP growth from the revolution has held at 3.7. In 2011, it dropped 1.9%. The following year, it was back up 3.3%, and in 2013, it was down again 2.26%. Experts say this is not enough to create jobs, and as CCTV's Roy Rutenberg has the details.
Tunisia's revolution 3 years ago was supposed to help people, like the residents of El Tadamon, a poor suburb on the outskirts of Tunis. But if you ask anyone here if it did, you'll likely get the same answer.
The situation is catastrophic in every sense of the word. Everything you can imagine: food, jobs, unemployment, mounting rubbish on the streets, and an increase in disease. Everything, all you can think of, has come in the last 3 years.
Job creation has been a difficult task for a government struggling to keep itself together. Nationally, unemployment now hovers at around 17%. It's higher in places like this. A sluggish economy coupled with high inflation hasn't helped.
The government can't create jobs. It created jobs in the last 2 years in the public service sector, but creating those jobs did not improve the provision of goods and services, so it's not really good growth.
When 23-year-old Mohamed Bouazizi set himself ablaze back in 2010, igniting not just his own body, but unknowingly the start of the so-called Arab Spring, he did so out of frustration over work, or lack thereof. And it's a frustration that still lingers on in places like this. And it's now spilling over to the next generation, both older and younger. 18-year-old Sohail Mille just finished studying engineering, and he fears he and his friend will have a tough time finding jobs.
Now, most of us young people don't work. The government makes promises and says they will help, that they will give us opportunities. But really, right now, we don't have anything, and we just see unemployment rising,
leaving little hope of a future in these parts. Roy Rutenberg, CCTV, El Tadamon, Tunisia.
Just what are the top economic priorities for the African continent in 2014? Well, that answer depends on who you ask. Leading African experts were recently brought together for a discussion by the Brookings Institution to gauge just what these priorities should be. Here's an excerpt from that conversation.
We need to have a higher growth rate and to have a more inclusive growth. One of the characteristics of the recent episode of growth in Africa is that we have the lowest elasticity to poverty in the world. If you compare to some part of the world where you have higher, the same growth rate, we have a much faster reduction of poverty. And why? Is that because most of these growth have been occurring in capital-intensive sectors. Actually, most of the FDIs have been going to mining and extractive industries, and those sectors are not generating jobs, are not really having the poverty impact that one can expect. So I think the challenge moving forward is twofold, is to increase the productivity of the sectors which are generating a lot of job and reducing poverty. One of them is agriculture.
Using technology, Africans can circumnavigate and circumvent some of the mistakes that were made in the West as the West became more productive and as capital accumulation in the West began to transform the economic system.
And staying in Zimbabwe, the country has somewhat softened its stance on Indonesian and is willing to allow foreigners running retail businesses and other such businesses to cede majority shareholding to locals. Initially, foreigners running the businesses could be done by Zimbabweans were required to leave their businesses by January 1st of this year. Zimbabwe's Indonesian minister told CCTV's Farai Mwakatuya that the process was not being done to expel foreigners, but to boost the growth of Zimbabwe's economy and to raise employment levels. He said the process would be done in a reasonable manner.
The ordinary man on the streets of Tafara, Sakubva, wherever it may be, do you think that they are feeling the benefits or they see the vision that this government has in terms of indigenization and they buy into it?
I think the test of the pudding was in the elections, where our party went to the people and explained to the people that the major thrust is that we're going to indigenize, create employment, empower people. And they asked the public, so to speak, whether they are with us within that program. And the public resoundingly say yes.
When you interact with these investors, with these people who are putting forward their proposals, are they running away or are they saying, look, let's play ball?
A number of companies have come forward and they want to comply, and all they wanted was full explanation, what it means and what percentage they can retain, and also clarify what do we refer to as indigenous people, and I think that has been clarified.